Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing? Please remember to tell me in the comments where you guys are tuning in from, what countries you're watching from, which cities, which counties, wherever you are in the world, so I can shout you guys out. And yeah, we'll get started very shortly. We already had some donations coming in on PayPal, and some of them got stopped, so I can't read them. I'm afraid. Sorry about that. But thank you to everybody who's supporting the show. So we've got 700 people watching right now on YouTube, but only 380 likes. So those of you who've forgotten to hit the like button, please make sure that you do hit the like button, as that's very important. We've got people tuning in from South Australia. We've got people tuning in from Qatar, from Los Angeles, from New Zealand, New York City, from the UK, from Oregon, from Beverly Hills, from Sydney, from the Bahamas, Poland, Melbourne, New Jersey, Mexico City, Ireland, Greece, Paraguay. Everywhere, pretty much everywhere, right? That's why we've got the globe in the back. So let's talk about Syria. I mean, it's interesting to put it mildly, right? Interesting to put it mildly. Christ. All right, let's dive right in. I've got a giant expose ready here, yeah? Okay, let's begin. So Damascus has fallen. It's over. Assad is now in Moscow with his family, and Al-Qaeda have taken over the country and done it with the help of Turkey. Erdogan pretty much admitted to sending them. You remember that north of Syria, Idlib, was occupied by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is basically al-Nusra Front, which is basically Al-Qaeda. Okay? So they have won. They have taken over, and the country is now lost. And I'm going to lay out everything that's been going on in the last 72 hours. And I'm doing this, of course, you know, I'm going to give you my insights on it as a Syrian, as a Christian. And, you know, I was born in Damascus. It's the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. So it's seen a lot of people come and go, to put it mildly. It's seen a lot of rulers come and go. But this is a very dangerous period now, because the people that have taken over are a bunch of lunatics, right? You have a lot of people that were disillusioned with the government, and they're celebrating, but they don't know what's coming, and they're going to have a very, very rude awakening. And all the things that we've been warning about the sectarianism taking over is already happening, about there being public executions is already happening, about Israel invading, taking more land, Turkey taking more land. It's all happening. It's already happening. They didn't waste 5 minutes. They didn't waste 5 minutes. And you have a lot of people wondering, well, you know, how could the army collapse so fast? But there wasn't any fighting. They took the country over without firing a bullet. Okay, so when they reached Damascus, first they took Aleppo, then they took Hama, and then Homs, and then, it was pretty much guaranteed that Damascus is gone. Okay. And of course, the Kurds are still in the east, in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor. But I mean, that's not even an afterthought, because the Americans are there with them, right? And Turkey, of course, is a NATO army. They have different agendas when it comes to the Kurds. Turkey's persecuting them, but generally speaking, it's a lost battle at this point, right? It's more like a lost war. But you have to look at it as a battle within the context of Gaza, because a lot of people, they think this is a separate issue and it began earlier, and so it has nothing to do with it. No. Look, you can't talk about Syria like it's some island in the Pacific, like it's some remote place with everything happening inside of a vacuum. This is ignorance. And for a Syrian, especially someone who's from that country, and many do try to remove it from its geopolitical status and talk about it like it's happening in a vacuum. This is ignorant. You can't do that. Syria is the link. I mean, do I have to pull out the map? I always find an excuse to pull out a map. So So yes, I will pull out the map. Just look at where Syria is. Look at where Syria is located. It's the link between Iran, Iraq, and then Lebanon and Palestine. It's the geographical link, okay? It's the lifeline and the supply line, all of it rolled into one. And if we talk about the history, I mean, you know, we've gone into it. We've gone into it many times, right? That this used to be one country anyway. When you look at Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and you had Mosul in Iraq, and you know, up here in Antakya, this was all Syria, right? But they carved it up, and now they're going to balkanize it even further. That's the plan. That's the idea. Okay, so what happened is that as soon as it was clear that Assad is gone and he's now in Moscow with his family, Israel invaded. And in the last 48 hours, Israel have carried out their largest bombing campaign, their Air Force bombing campaign ever. Their largest air offensive. Think of how much they've been bombing Gaza, right? And they've dropped a lot of bombs on Gaza. But if you look at the number of planes and just the scale of the operation, what they've just done in Syria is actually their largest in history. So you can't talk about Syria like, oh yeah, the dictator fell. And you know, they always use this word dictator for Bashar al-Assad, but they don't use it for Keir Starmer. Remember, I'm a journalist, so I have every incentive to care about freedom of speech more than other people in society because my job depends on it, right? I wasn't arrested in Syria for being a journalist. I was arrested in the United Kingdom for being a journalist. I was arrested for my work in the UK, not in Syria, but I don't hear anyone calling Keir Starmer a dictator or Britain a regime. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? But anyway, what do I know? So they've gone in now and they've taken over the country, not just geopolitically, but physically. They have sent in tanks and planes and destroyed it, hollowed it out. Just let me show you what's going on. You guys know that Israel occupies the Golan Heights, right? Okay, so you see where my mouse is? That is one of the most strategic areas in the entire Middle East because it's a plateau, because it's a natural, it's a natural barrier, and of course it has a strategic vantage point. It acts as a strategic vantage point. My parents served there in UNDOF and UNTSO, which are the UN peacekeeping and observer missions there. So Israel basically said, screw the UN mission and screw the ceasefire deal that we've had since 1974. We're going to go in. And now they've taken so much land. They're about 19 kilometers from Damascus. Let me repeat that. Israeli tanks are 19 kilometers from the capital of Syria. That is the fruit of the revolution. And you got all these clowns like Mehdi Hassan, Zara Sultana, people who have no connection to Syria. They're not Syrian. They don't come from Syria. I don't even know if they've ever been to Syria. But, you know, they're clapping for this revolution, quote unquote. What revolution? It's like I'm taking away your old car and I'm saying, hey, I'm going to get you a new set of wheels. And then I give you a child's bicycle. I got you some wheels, right? This is not an upgrade. This is a downgrade. Do you grasp that? It doesn't mean I necessarily have an affinity for Bashar al-Assad because I like his jawline or something. It's a downgrade. Do you understand that you ceded land? And not only land, I mean, as if there's anything more precious than land, but Israel has systematically destroyed Syria's military. There is no more military. So whatever government is about to take over now has no, material military assets. They're gone. All the research laboratories bombed. Archives bombed. The tanks bombed. The Navy bombed. The fleet of MiGs bombed. Missile silos, surface-to-air missiles bombed. Ammunition dumps bombed. They launched over 250 airstrikes. They have destroyed all of the military assets of the country. So whatever government comes now is already illegitimate because they haven't fired a shot. These Al-Qaeda freaks, these extremist nut jobs that were chopping heads, literally chopping people's heads, that have taken over the country. I mean, it's like throwing pearl to swine. It's like throwing pearls to swine. That's what's going on. They haven't fired a shot at Israel. Nothing. You know why? Because they serve Israel. When you have Israeli tanks at 19 kilometers from you in your country and you let them destroy all of the country's military assets, you are working with Israel. What else are you? You're either incompetent or you're an Israeli agent. And either way, you shouldn't be in power, should you? Should you? Look at this. Look at this, man. Everything, all of it. They've wrecked the country. It's the road between Damascus and Homs. Up in flames. I mean, just, you know. This is the port in Latakia. So well done. That's your revolution. Well done. There's too many videos to show you. Like I said, 250 airstrikes. 250. And the Americans are saying that they're also bombing ISIS, right? So let me get this straight. They won't bomb Al-Qaeda, but they will bomb ISIS. Okay. And shall we look at the map? Because I'll come back to the live map in a bit. But if you look at ISIS, their presence has actually grown now a bit in the desert, right? It's grown. Well, great job, right? Also, who asked you to do that? Like, who invited you into Syria to do that? Did this new government invite them? Did Bashar al-Assad invite them? Which Syrians invited the United States to steal 1/3 of Syria and all of its oil? Why are the sanctions still on the country? Why? Huh? So here's Netanyahu doing his victory lap on the Middle East. And again, I will say this very clearly. All these clowns, these morons who are clapping that Bashar al-Assad is gone, congratulations. You have the same position as Benjamin Netanyahu, or Milaikovsky, as his real name is actually. Congratulations. You're on the same side as Israel, as the Mossad, as the CIA, as MI6. You are on the side of Western imperialism. You are, by definition, because they are clapping too. As a matter of fact, they engineered all of this. You're on the side of Erdogan. You're on the side of Turkish intelligence. That's who you are. That's who your bedfellows are. Now enjoy your victory lap. Own it. Be a man and announce who you really are. This is who you are.
זה יום היסטורי בתולדות המזרח התיכון. משטר אסד, חוליה מרכזית בציר הרשע של איראן. המשטר הזה נפל. זוהי תוצאה ישירה של המכות שהנחתנו על איראן ועל חיזבאללה, התומכות העיקריות של משטר אסד. זה יצר תגובת שרשרת ברחבי המזרח התיכון של כל אלה שרוצים להשתחרר ממשטר הדיכוי והרודנות הזה. זה כמובן יוצר הזדמנויות חדשות, חשובות מאוד למדינת ישראל, אבל זה גם לא נטול סיכונים. אנחנו פועלים קודם כל כדי להגן על גבולנו. האזור הזה נשלט במשך קרוב ל-50 שנה על ידי אזור חיץ שהוסכם עליו ב-1974, הסכם הפרדת הכוחות. ההסכם הזה קרס, חיילי סוריה נטשו את העמדות שלהם. יחד עם שר הביטחון ובגיבוי מלא של הקבינט, הנחיתי אתמול את צה"ל לתפוס את אזור החיץ ואת...
Yeah, you get the idea. You get the idea. And I love how he says the agreement collapsed. Well, when did you respect it? You've been bombing Syria every 2 weeks. How many times have I sat here on this chair and covered the Israeli bombings in Syria? I've lost count how many times they bombed it. It's probably in numbers in the thousands by now. They already admitted it was hundreds of strikes, but if you certainly add the last 48 hours, we're in the thousands for sure by now. But between 2011 and December, the start of this month, so before Assad fell, they probably did over 1,000 airstrikes, 1,000 attacks, let's say in general, easily. So the thing collapsed a long time ago. Now he acts like, well, the Syrian soldiers abandoned their business. like he would never break the agreement, right? Like he would never violate it. Mr. Netanyahu, the great respecter of international law, the upholder of all things just. I mean, who is this guy kidding, really? So now let me show you again how brilliant these revolutionaries are, these so-called revolutionaries, right? They are so smart that they have given Israel the highest point in Syria, the highest point, the highest physical point, right? So we're talking about Jabal al-Sheikh, about Mount Hermon, or Harmon. This is what they have given the Israelis. This is at an altitude of over 2,000 meters. The Israelis had a radar blind spot on this area. It was problematic for them because they're very nearby. Remember, this is on the Golan Heights, okay? They don't control every single inch. Now they do, but they didn't have all of it. And that vantage point, they didn't have it under their control. Now they have it. So not only have they allowed these jihadists, again, I don't even like to use the word jihad because they take that the word jihad and they turn it into something, completely different with their Wahhabism. But anyway, these jihadists, these Al-Qaeda nut jobs that have taken over Damascus, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, they've allowed Israel to destroy the Syrian fleet of planes, the boats, the navy, all of it. All of the ships are gone. And then in addition to that, they not only seize land, any centimeter of land would be an atrocity and an affront, but they give them the highest point in Syria. And it's not just, a random high place in Syria. The point is it overlooks Israeli troop positions. It's a strategic military position, and they just hand it over without firing a bullet, without a fight. Not even a bloody arm wrestling on a table. Nothing. No confrontation. And what's so funny about this is that even the Saudis, who helped destroy Syria, issued a statement in their great benevolence to condemn what Israel is doing. But the people in Damascus who are under the bombs, these revolutionaries, didn't say a word. They still haven't said a word. I mean, this is not just corrupt. This is treason, honestly, treason. Like, they are backed by NATO. We already know this. They're backed by Turkey. We already know this. But this takes it to another level. It really takes it to another level. I mean, the level of scum is just really disgusting. Look at this. Israelis just roaming on Syrian land, and they do nothing. And yet, some of you might be surprised to know Syria has snow. Yes, it does. And you've got Israelis who steal that land and build ski resorts on it because they're thieves. What else do Israelis do except steal land? Their whole existence is based on stealing land. All right. Look at how they drive unopposed and unimpeded. This is filmed by an Israeli soldier. They're just, just driving through Commentator and driving through Qatana, unimpeded. No one even approaching them. Just, yallah, take as much as you want. More land thieving. And where's the Syrian army? Oh, we had to get rid of it. Okay, well, where's the new Syrian army? Where's the free Syrian army that we kept hearing about, right? The democratic fighters, where are they? Nowhere to be found. They're busy. Remember, guys, I'm sorry. They can't fight Israel. They're very busy, changing the flags on the embassies. That's a much higher priority, of course, right? Changing the flags, the colors, right? To make them look nice. Got to have that French colonial flag flying on every Syrian embassy. We have to have the French one, right? Because this is an imperialist revolution. And that's a much higher priority than fighting Israeli troops. Can't fight them. They're our friends. Don't you get it? This is the new Syria. This is the normalizing ties with Israel Syria. This is the free market economy Syria. This is bringing that investment so you can control our economy Syria. But thank God the dictator, the murderous regime butcher Bashar al-Assad is gone. Congratulations, you swapped a car for a bicycle. You dumb asses, really. Well done. Well done. But guys, it's freedom and democracy. Clap, please clap. Otherwise, you support the dictator, Bashar al-Assad, and that makes you an Assadist. Look at the Israelis. They're even making jokes now. This is filmed by an Israeli. Just watch.
חבר'ה, הלאה, דמשק, אני צריך לדמשק? יאללה, תודה כפרה עליך.
Right, so he's hitchhiking to Damascus because apparently they can just drive up to Damascus as Israeli troops. And look at the scum, the level of scum in the media. Like, this is Der Spiegel, and they call it Israel's Aufräumaktion, right? So it's cleanup action. And then it says that it's building, right, a demilitarized zone on the Golan Heights, and that it's called a forward defense action, right? So they say Vorwärtsverteidigung. I mean, what does that even mean? A forward defense maneuver? You mean it's an invasion? That's what it is. They're literally invading more land. I mean, do I have to pull up the map? Fine, I will. Here's the bloody map, okay? Just look at how scandalous this is, okay? I mean, forward defense maneuver. You really got to hand it to them, like how creative they are. They're really just, they're really marvelous, aren't they? So this is how much land they've taken. See that? They've taken an area that's several times larger than Gaza. This is an old graphic, by the way. It says 40 kilometers, but they're now at 19 kilometers. They're at 19 kilometers of Damascus. So they're you see Qatana here, they're already past it. They've already taken it. And Mount Hermon is up here. They took that as well. They took Quneitra. All of this is gone. Well done. Well done. Syrian revolution. Well done. So you handed land to Israel. Well done. Well done. Again, just, you know, so proud. So proud. Sha'ab an jad fahman. So look at this. On the news, they're also justifying this in English on Sky.
The United States, we know, has bombed some targets inside Syria over the last 24 hours. Israel has done the same. Where does that leave the UK? Do you fully support the action that they have been taking?
What I think Israel's doing is making sure its position in the Golan is secure. One of the things to note about this has partly happened.
Yeah, they have to make sure it's secure. You know, they've only been occupying it since 1967. What is that, over 50 years now? Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't secure. No. But fuck Syria, right? Like, screw Syrians being secure. No, Israel. Oh, let's all get on our knees and bow down before the Israelis. We're just human animals after all, right? We're Goyim and Amalek.
Because of Israeli action against Iranian proxies around.
What Iranian proxies? Assad is gone. Bashar al-Assad is gone. What, you're still bringing up this old shit like a plunger? What, are you a plunger? Because you sound like a plunger. Bashar al-Assad is gone. You own this now. This is the mess of the revolution. That's the legacy of the revolution. Don't talk to me about Iranian proxies. What are you on about? There are no Iranian proxies in Syria. There are no Russians in Syria. There's no Bashar al-Assad in Syria. You're in control now. You got the country. What are you doing? Nothing.
The region, and that has left Iran weakened, and that is partly why the Assad regime has fallen. So the action that Israel has taken over the last few days will be to make sure that its position in the Golan is secure.
So that's supported by the UK?
We will always support Israel's right to defend itself and make itself secure.
The United States, we know, has bombed.
I'm sure you will. What dirt do they have on you, by the way? You want to tell us? What do they got on you? So here you can see the Israelis making themselves secure, you know. They want to build ski resorts on there. Get ready for the best ski resort. You know, obviously having ski resorts is really important for Israelis to feel secure. Otherwise, they might encounter anti-Semitism without a ski resort, right? Especially one on Syrian land. It's got to be on Syrian land. Here's Smotrich, the finance minister, who was saying a couple of weeks ago that he wants to take Damascus.
ים ונגמרת בנהר. בשלב הזה או שבעצם אנחנו גם יוצאים את עבר הירדן? בשלב הבא.
בסדר, לאט לאט. כתוב בחז"ל שעתידה ישראל, עתידה ירושלים להתרחב עד דמשק.
זאת אומרת, אנחנו...
רק ירושלים, עד דמשק.
Bezalel Smotrich a une vision maximaliste de la terre promise. Elle inclut les territoires palestiniens, mais aussi des territoires en Jordanie, en Syrie, au Liban, en Irak, en Égypte ou encore en Arabie Saoudite.
So you have a lot of Syrians who cheered for revolution. They wanted freedom and democracy, and what did they get instead? They got Greater Israel. Mabruk, ya Hamir, Mabruk, Mabruk. I mean, I don't know what to say, really. I still don't think most Syrians supported this, but a large enough chunk did. And that doesn't mean that it's a legitimate revolution. I'll tell you why. Because when the CIA spends over $1 billion, That's their most expensive operation in history, Operation Timber Sycamore. They brought all the weapons from Libya after they toppled Gaddafi, another, freedom and democracy revolution, right? So when the CIA spends over $1 billion to get rid of you, and it takes over 13 years, and Turkey has to also get involved and invade Syrian land and persecute Kurds and cut off water and put its troops inside of Idlib, and then they start even annexing it by using Turkish currency in Idlib. And then you've got Israel expanding in there. This is not a revolution. This is called regime change. This is called an invasion. This is called a coup. You can't take Syria out of the Middle East. Syria is the Middle East. Syria is the Levant. It is the Levant. In Arabic, when you say Sham, it could mean the whole region, the Levant. It could mean Syria, or it could mean Damascus. Do you understand now how central Syria is to the region? It is the Levant. So you can't act like, removing Bashar al-Assad has no consequences for Syria's future. It did. It does. I'm showing them to you. It's happening right now. There's no army. The country's defenseless. I'm not talking about the troops. I'm talking about the hardware, the physical, material, ammunition, weapons, ships, tanks. The country needs those things, right? How can you have a country and sovereignty without an army? Who will defend the country? I'm not talking about building ski resorts, by the way, like Israel, so they feel secure. I'm talking about real security. I'm talking about 50 years of research and development that went on into building up Syria's its stockpiles, its weapons, ammunition dumps, all of it. It made tons of advancements. It had one of the best armies in the Middle East. It did suffer defeats, but it still had one of the most well-equipped armies in the Middle East. It did. And it was backed by the Soviets and the Russians then afterwards. All of that's gone now. So what is going on? This is a downgrade. This is backwards. This is flushing Syria's future down the toilet. That's the legacy of this new government. Of this sham. I refuse to even call it a government. It's a hostile takeover. You understand that? This is not a revolution. Again, when you have dozens of countries and dozens of groups coming in and trying to destabilize you, that's not a revolution. When I have to translate videos of quote-unquote Syrian rebels because they're not bloody speaking Arabic because they're not from Syria, that you can't sit there and tell me that these are Syrian rebels. That guy's from Chechnya. This one's from Afghanistan. This one's from Uzbekistan. That one's from maybe from Morocco, or from Tunisia, rather, from Libya. Which is funny because their Arabic dialect is really that different. I do need translators. But you know what I mean? It's like they're not Syrians at the end of the day, are they? They're mercenaries. They're foreign fighters. They're extremists. They've come here. They're earning money to fight in a foreign country, and they're destabilizing it. And now they've put it backwards. That's not a revolution. It's just not. It's not legitimate. And when you're clapping with Netanyahu, that should tell you everything. But unfortunately, some people are too thick. They're too dumb. They say they're pro-Palestine, and then they go and support Netanyahu. They claim to be anti-Zionist, right? When it comes to Palestine, but then when it comes to Syria, they seem to be on the same side as the Zionists. In any scenario, that should make you wake up, and shake you awake. And make you see the truth and see the light, but apparently it's not enough. Maybe another video from Netanyahu will do the trick. We have no intention. Yeah, you know that Israel sent a spy into Syria. His name was Eli Cohen, and he almost became the defense minister of Syria. Please believe Netanyahu when he says they don't want to meddle in Syria's internal affairs. They just want an Israeli spy to be the defense minister of Syria. They just want to control Syrian land. They just want to keep bombing Syria and controlling its foreign policy. Yeah, that's not meddling. It's security. There we go. Right on cue.
במסגרת הזאת, אני אפשרתי לחיל האוויר להפציץ יכולות צבאיות אסטרטגיות שהשאיר צבא סוריה. כדי שאלה לא ייפלו בידי הג'יהאדיסטים. זה דומה למה שחיל האוויר הבריטי עשה כשהוא הפציץ את הצי של משטר וישי ששיתף פעולה עם הנאצים כדי...
Yeah, once again, he shows... Have you noticed how Israelis love using World War II history to kind of justify what they're doing? Like, where they go, oh, well, look at Dresden. No one blames the British for Dresden. Actually, quite a good number of people do. And the difference is that the Nazis, the Germans, are the ones who started bombing London and conducting aerial campaigns. Palestinians didn't conduct a giant, they didn't fire V1s and V2 rockets at Israel, and they didn't conduct massive bombardment campaigns. So that is not analogous, and it's not a legitimate comparison. And in this case, when he's talking about the sinking of French ships by the British, again, Britain was not bombing the crap out of France and at war with France for 50 years. So what are you comparing here? Israel has been bombing Syria all the time, but now that they see there's no army left, and they see that the guy who was keeping them at bay is gone, and not just him, but his backers, now he suddenly thinks that he has free reign to steal more land and to keep bombing Syria even more. So there's no comparison here. I don't even know what the hell he's talking about. We're trying to compare the sinking of French ships in the Mediterranean by Britain to what's happening. I mean, this is ridiculous, really. It is absolutely incomparable. And when he says he doesn't want the weapons of Syria's army to fall into the hands of the jihadists, once again, Netanyahu was giving these people weapons in the first place. Netanyahu was giving them medical assistance. Look at the former head of the Mossad, the Israeli secret intelligence service, admitting that Israel was arming Al-Qaeda, the same people that are in power now. So how can Netanyahu claim that he wants to destroy and hollow out Syria's military assets to protect Israel from Al-Qaeda when he was literally photographed in the hospital, the IDF hospital, shaking the hands of these fighters? I mean, the hypocrisy is enormous. Besides, these rebels that he is afraid of and claims to be afraid of, they reached the Golan Heights days ago. Instead of going and liberating the Golan Heights, they turned around and went to Damascus because they're on Israel's side.
Okay, you say no preference. There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded Al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with your enemies in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say? So there's no tactical or political strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactical issues involved, I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Nusra Front. That is the group that just took over Damascus. Al-Nusra Front rebranded itself into Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, into HTS. It's Al-Qaeda in Syria. It renamed itself Al-Nusra, Jabhat al-Nusra, and then it renamed itself Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It's still Al-Qaeda. And it's not just me saying that. Even the Americans say that, and I'll just finish the video and then show you.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No, I would not treat...
Have you not just contributed?
So what I find incredible is that Mehdi Hassan just got the former head of the Mossad to admit Israel is working with Al-Qaeda in Syria, and then he claps because Assad, the dictator, is gone. Okay, so you're clapping for the exchange of a faulty car for a bicycle. You're clapping for Israel and its Al-Qaeda proxies, Turkey and its Al-Qaeda proxies, America, NATO and their Al-Qaeda proxies to take over Syria because there are no other actors on the ground. And you're going to have Syrians. Remember, not every Syrian who supports the revolution supports Al-Qaeda. You can't generalize like that, right? But the problem is that they are dreaming of an entity that doesn't exist. There is no group on the ground that is secular, that is democratic, that is not crazy like Al-Qaeda, and actually has military clout. Do you understand? You've got a choice. You've got Bashar al-Assad or you've got Al-Qaeda. That is the choice in Syria, right? You can wish that it were otherwise. You can wish that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But reality says otherwise. It's Bashar al-Assad or Al-Qaeda, and Israel and Turkey and NATO. That is the choice. And now, well, that choice was made for Syrians. And many Syrians, unfortunately, not all of them, but many of them chose wrong. But look at this tweet from the Americans themselves. They've still got, and this is really funny, they've still got a wanted poster out for this freak. Okay? So this is Jolani. And you remember PBS Frontline did a documentary 3 years ago, and I commented on it. It's on the channel. Go watch it if you want. And it was about him, and they dressed this monkey up in a suit, right? They dressed him up in a suit to try and rehabilitate his image. So they've been working at this for quite a while now. That's him, Mohammed al-Jolani. Okay? He's the one in charge of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. As a matter of fact, he was in charge of Al-Qaeda in Syria when it was still called Al-Qaeda in Syria. So he even went and got permission from Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is bin Laden's, I don't know, he's probably in a mansion somewhere in America, who knows. But he was bin Laden's mentor. He's one of the, he merged his group, Islamic Jihad in Egypt, with Al-Qaeda, and he bombed my school and the Egyptian embassy when I was in the British school in Pakistan. My classroom was blown up by a double suicide bombing by Ayman al-Zawahiri. And this guy, Jolani, who now runs Syria, was basically, his apprentice and working with Ayman al-Zawahiri. So not only that, he's not only a leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria, but also ISIS. Like as if one of those wasn't bad enough. Here he is with Baghdadi. So that's Jolani with the circle on his head, with the ISIS flag in the background, and that's al-Baghdadi, the leader. So he was one of his deputies. And you expect me to believe that this guy is reformed? I mean, even if he were reformed, he literally has a $10 million bounty on his head, right? When you go around chopping people's heads off in Syria, you have to be held accountable, right? In any country. How can you murder people? I mean, we're talking about real terrorism, real violence, political violence that resulted in persecution of minorities, in just horrific crimes. So he's just not going to be held accountable for that. He just, he gets a clean slate because America said so. Amazing. This tweet is still up, by the way. This tweet is still up there from the U.S. Embassy in Syria. There is no U.S. Embassy in Syria. I mean, they closed it down when the revolution started, and it's just online. But let me just show you that this is not an exaggeration to say that he is Al-Qaeda, because, I mean, he literally was the leader of Al-Qaeda in Syria, literally, right? And it just says in the tweet right above it. It says right above it. Look at this. Even the Americans say that the core of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is al-Nusra, which is also a designated terrorist organization. This designation applies regardless of what name it uses or what groups it merges into. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's merger, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham is a merger, and any group that merges into it becomes part of Al-Qaeda's Syrian network. So once again, they've changed the name 2 times already, but even the Americans are saying this back in 2017, that it doesn't matter what they call themselves, they're still a terrorist group and they're still part of Al-Qaeda. But guess what? They've just removed them from the list. They've just removed them from the list of they have FTTs and special designated terrorist groups in America. So they've just removed it now, okay? And Britain is also considering removing it. So just look at how they've been whitewashing this absolute degenerate, a real degenerate, honestly, a real degenerate. If you look at the Telegraph, okay, so the Telegraph had they had a headline a few days ago. They called it so it was titled like this. Here I'm putting it up on the screen. You see that? How Syria's diversity-friendly jihadists plan on building a state. Diversity-friendly jihadists. Diversity-friendly jihadists. And let's listen to the former head of MI6, what he's saying about them.
When I was chief of MI6 10, 12 years ago, we looked at all these Syrian opposition groups and classified them into those that we could support and those who were beyond the pale and too close to al-Qaeda. And Tahrir al-Sham was definitely in the latter category. But I think Abu Muhammad al-Julani, the leader, has made great efforts over the last 10 years to distance himself from those terrorist groups. And certainly the actions we've seen of Tahrir al-Sham over the last 2 weeks has been those of a liberation movement, not of a terrorist organization.
Excuse me, what did you just say? Let me repeat that phrase, excuse me.
Tahrir al-Sham over the last 2 weeks has been those of a liberation movement, not of a terrorist organization.
Oh, sorry, you're under arrest. Terrorism Act, which they arrested me under, Section 12(1)(a), it says that if you have an opinion or a belief that makes it look like you're glorifying a prescribed organization or giving others the impression that you support it or that you cause others to support it, it basically criminalizes journalism as well. Let's not act like it's a good piece of legislation. But he just broke the law. That's my point. And I'm trying to show you the hypocrisy is that if you call other groups on this list a liberation organization, you will be arrested, right? I was arrested as a journalist, the first journalist in Britain to be arrested under Section 12(1)(a) because of my work on Palestine and Lebanon. And the former head of MI6 goes on television, breaks the law by saying that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is on the list of prescribed organizations, the same list, right, that I'm accused of apparently violating. And nothing. And Sky News platform him. So I'm not saying anyone should be arrested under this piece of legislation because I think it's crap. And it goes against the right to free speech. It shouldn't even exist. But I'm just trying to show you the hypocrisy of how I am still under investigation right this second. I'm still being investigated for quote unquote terrorism. And this guy isn't. And Sky News are not. And The Telegraph, which published that garbage I just showed you about diversity-friendly jihadists, they're not under investigation. They haven't been arrested. I didn't hear of 6 police arresting any of these people on a plane at Heathrow, but they did it to me. What does that tell you? It tells you that you can chop people's heads off and carry out acts of violence, but as long as you serve Israel's interests and MI6's interests and the CIA's interests and Turkey's interests and NATO's interests, it's okay. Chop away. Chop away. Glorify away. All is forgiven. The scumbags, the level of scum. They have unleashed this scourge of terrorist scum on Syria, on the cradle of civilization, and then they whitewashed it. They whitewashed it, diversity-friendly. Guess what? Syria doesn't need diversity. It's already got it. We don't need diversity-friendly jihadists. Shove them up your ass. Shove them up your ass. The scum, the scum, really. It's like this piece over here from The Independent all over again, huh? Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace, Bin Laden. It's like my whole life, man. I've been running into these terrorists. I get blown up in Pakistan. Or I was in the classroom when the Egyptian embassy next door was blown up. My whole classroom, just all the windows, just a massive double suicide bombing. And many people were killed inside that embassy. And then they send the same kind of scum with the same playbook from the same people into Syria to destroy Syria. I mean, it's like it's never ending. You're never finished with these pieces of crap. And then NATO and Ukraine, what are they doing there? They support neo-Nazis. They will get in bed with the devil himself. And then they have the nerve to call other people dictators and murderers and torture. Hey, man, where is the accountability for these people and what they did as Daesh? I'm not saying they're like Daesh. They are Daesh. They are. Okay? Do you see how villainous and how malfeasant these scumbags who work in the mainstream press are? They didn't say a word about me being arrested. Not a word, right? Not a word. Never mind a word of protest. Jesus. And then they go ahead and they violate the same law. I mean, wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm just pointing it out. I'm just pointing it out. And so now Syria has devolved. Today you have tons and tons. So what were they saying before yesterday? They were saying, oh, we're going to give all the Syrian soldiers amnesty. No one touched the Syrian soldiers. And look at how we treat Christians in Idlib. Yeah, I'm really confident about that. And they're trying to portray themselves as being wonderful. It's like the Taliban, right? They were saying when the Americans left that, look, we're going to treat women fairly and all this stuff. And then what do they do afterwards when no one was looking, when the cameras weren't pointed there anymore? They banned all girls from going to school, right? Just to give you an analogy. Except that this is on another level. This is on another level, right? At least have the decency to admit what's going on after 13 years. No, they won't. They won't. So look at what's going on today in Syria. You've got public executions, hangings, beatings. I mean, the videos that I've seen, man, I can't even show them to you because of how bad they are. And I'm not going to show them to you. But really, really just awful stuff. And these guys, look at the Daesh, the ISIS patch on his shirt. So once again, we're not saying these people are like ISIS. They are literally the core of Daesh. They are Daesh manifest. Literally, right there. You can see it on his shirt. Okay? He's wearing it on his chest, proudly. Okay? And this is just one video of many. I mean, I saw another one. You've got a convoy of these lunatics. Here, let me try and pull this up because I've got many things open for you. Give me a second. Actually, I should probably close out some of them. Hold on. Yeah, so you've got a Christian neighborhood in Damascus. And these Daesh trucks, you remember how ISIS, what they look like and how they behave? There's no mistaking who they are, right? There's no mistaking it. And here they are, they're driving through a Christian neighborhood. This is in Damascus, okay? And they've got the ISIS flags hanging out the cars, and they're just shooting their AKs in the air, terrorizing people in a Christian neighborhood. Right here. This is in Damascus. This is Sharia Halab, okay? So I'm telling you, this is a Christian neighborhood. I know exactly where this is. And just listen to them and watch. And he says it also in the video. You heard him? He says Sharia Halab. It's Aleppo Avenue or Aleppo Street. There they are. You see them with the pickup trucks? There are the flags. Just look at them. Are these people? Tell me, are these people even Syrian? Who is in these trucks? Who knows? Maybe they're from Turkey. Maybe they're Uyghurs. You've got thousands of Uyghurs, right? Apparently there's a genocide against Muslims in China, right? All of a sudden the West cares so much about Muslims, they just slaughter them all year, and then, but the Uyghurs have thousands of troops fighting in Syria as quote-unquote Syrian rebels, instead of fighting whoever is apparently oppressing them in China, or allegedly oppressing them. Isn't that weird, right? They've got time to go fight against Syria, but not to defend themselves. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But again, who are these people? Are they from Chechnya? Are they Russians? Are they Ukrainians? Who the hell knows? Are they from Libya? No one knows. But they're riding around Damascus with ISIS flags and firing guns into the air, terrorizing people in a Christian neighborhood. How lovely. How lovely, right? And then look at this. This is a Christian journalist, okay, Syrian Christian journalist. And apparently she got stopped also in a Christian neighborhood, right? And they start harassing her and questioning her, like, what's your religion? What religion are you? Here it is.
من باب توما بمشي بهي الشوارع ولا مرة حدا طرح علي هذا السؤال. أنا لا أقبل أنا لا
So she's saying she's walking in Babtuma. Babtuma is downtown central. It's central Damascus, right? It's a Christian neighborhood as well. And she says, I walk through these streets all the time.
علي هذا السؤال أنا لا أقبل أن يطرح هذا السؤال لمجرد الطرح. لا أتكلم لأني أقلية هنا، ولا كنت بحياتي أشعر بأني أقلية، ولا بحياتي حسيت بهذا الشعور. عشت وربيت وخلقت ودرست واشتغلت وكنت مع العالم مع الناس، وكنا بالمخيمات وكنا في كل مكان، ولكن أن يطرح هكذا سؤال فمعلش.
Yeah, and she's outraged. She's saying, I can't believe this. I refuse to accept that someone asks me such a question. I'm born here, raised here, I worked here, lived here, spent my whole life here, never been subjected to anything like this. She's telling the truth. She's telling the truth. I can tell you this is extremely rude to go and ask someone, and not just ask them, but to stop them in the street and demand that they answer, what are you? What religion are you? I mean, what is this crap? This is unheard of.
اعذروني إخواتي، اعذروني، ولكن هيدا ليس من منطلق مسيحيتي إطلاقا، وأنا أجاهر اليوم. وعلى فكرة أنا عندي متابعين على الصفحة وجمهور وبالإذاعة وبالتلفزيون، ولا حدا كان بيعرف يمكن ميريلا هي شو.
So she's saying that she has tons of followers, and even some of her colleagues, like, no, she would never ever talk about what religion she is, and she made sure that no one would know, not out of fear, but her point is that this never came up. She never had to bring it up, and no one asked her, right? That's her point, and she's telling the truth. She's telling the truth.
وشو انتمائها وشو توجهها وشو طائفتها، ولكن هذا الموقف اليوم بنص دمشق، بنص ساحة العباسيين، أجبرني أن أقول هذا الشيء.
And so she said she was stopped. This is today, this video. She stopped in the middle of Damascus, in Saht Abbasin Square, which is, again, is a Christian area. She gets stopped, and she said, he forced me to answer, what sect, what religion are you?
أجبرني أن أقول هذا الشيء، وأعيد، أنا لا أقول هذا الشيء اليوم لأني مسيحية ولا لأني أقلية. أصلا هو لما سأل قال طلع فيه إنه أنت مسيحية علوية سنية، مو سنية، لا، إنه شيعية درزية، يعني هو عنده إنه كل هذه الطوائف هي بكفة.
Yeah, see, so he asked her, what are you, a Christian? Are you Alawite or Alawi? Are you Alawiye? Are you Druze? Are you Shia? And it's funny, right? Like he picked all of the minorities. So there's like a, we saw this coming, man. What did I tell you? What did I tell you is going to happen? Many people warned about this sectarian crap. It's not compatible with Syrian society. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But this is the revolution. Congratulations. So now Syrian Christians are no longer safe. Journalists are no longer safe. Remember, she's a journalist and she's being harassed. And it's funny because what did they say a few days ago? This so-called new government, anyone who harasses a journalist will go to prison. We'll see about that, yeah.
طائفة سنية بكفة. يا جماعة أنا بحياتي ما حكيت بهي الطريقة، ولا بحياتي كنت طائفية، ولا تناولت، وصفحتي على الفيسبوك موجودة، ومن عشرات السنين حتى، يعني مو بس من سنين الحرب ومن قبل، ولا عندي شعار ديني، ولا عندي علم، ولا عندي صورة، ولا عندي أي شيء. ولكن اليوم يلي بده يسكت على موقف صغير.
Yeah, she's saying again, like she's just shocked. You know, this never came up. She never made an issue about this. She's never spoken like this about this issue, and you know, she's very upset. She's very upset, and she's saying if you're quiet about small things, then you know they will shut you up about bigger issues. That's why she's saying that she's speaking out.
على موقف صغير بده يسكت عن مواقف كثيرة رح تجي بعدين. من اللحظة الأولى، من الموقف الأول تكلموا، لا تسكتوا. دمشق للجميع، سوريا للجميع. نحن اليوم.
She's saying we have to speak up. We can't just be quiet and say nothing. She's right. And she said Damascus is for everyone. Syria is for everyone.
فايتين على مرحلة جديدة اسمها حرية. حرية اسمها حرية حقيقية، وليس حرية مقنعة، وليس حرية مغلفة بشعارات ولا بأعلام. نحن عم نختلف علم هون ولا علم هون، هذا ما له خلافنا. الثورة لا تختصر بعلم، الحرية لا تختصر بعلم ولا برمز ولا بشخص. الوطن أكبر، التحرر من الخوف.
So she's saying that we're entering a new phase now. We're entering a new phase of freedom. I honestly don't know what she sounds like. She may have supported the revolution. I really don't know. But she's basically saying that we're supposed to be entering a new phase now, a phase of real freedom, not just like, pretentious or fake or synthetic freedom, real freedom. What sect somebody is, what background they are, it's none of your, it's nobody's business, right? We're supposed to be leaving a phase of fear and well, unfortunately, this woman, again, I don't know what her position was, and I can't 100% tell from the way she's speaking. Regardless, right? It doesn't. The point here is that this woman and a lot of other people they're gonna be faced with a rude awakening, because they now look at this. For example, I'll show you another Syrian who's getting a rude awakening because they wouldn't listen to people like me and others who said that this is what is going to happen. You can get rid of Bashar al-Assad and then you're going to end up with something much worse. You will have no more sovereignty. You will have sectarianism. They wouldn't listen. They wouldn't listen. Okay? So look, this one over here, he's saying, why is the head of the transnational government addressing Syrians with an Islamic flag on display? This man is supposed to represent Syrians of all religious backgrounds. This is an outrageous insult to us all. He's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. The problem is that this person cheered on the revolution. And so I don't want to say, haha, I told you so, because it's not, it's not a competition, is it? But, and it's also gonna, if there's no freedom of speech, if journalists aren't protected, that negatively impacts me. If minorities aren't protected, that negatively impacts me. But we tried to warn these people, man. We tried to warn these people, they wouldn't listen. And so now they're getting a rude awakening. And again, look, the flag that he has up there on the left. So that's the flag of the revolution, okay, the one on the right. And that flag by itself is a monstrosity because that's a French colonial flag. You can go and look up the list of transitions that Syria went through as a protectorate and a mandate under the French. That's a French colonial flag, okay? And it's funny because if you can even see it, as clear as day if you know your history. But unfortunately, many people don't know their history, and so they just get behind a symbol. And the irony of this is that now Syria is back under imperialist control, and that's just heartbreaking, isn't it? At least keep the same flag. They want to tell you that Syria's flag is an Assadist flag. Bashar al-Assad and his father were not even heard of in Syria when that became Syria's flag. That was the flag of the United Arab Republic when it was a fusion of Egypt and Syria, and it was a project of pan-Arabism. Syria kept that flag. Egypt left and changed its flag, but Syria kept it because it's a pan-Arab nationalist flag. Okay, that's what it is. That's what it symbolizes. It's got nothing to do with Assad's family. Neither him or his father were in power when that became Syria's flag. Okay, it's got nothing to do with it. But even if you're going to change the flag, why would you take a rag like that thing on the right that is a French colonial mandate flag? I mean, it's just disgusting. It's really humiliating. You might as well just put up the bloody French flag while you're at it. Why don't you put up NATO's flag while you're at it? But anyway, that's not the issue here. The issue here is that he's putting up a flag on the left with the Shahada on it, and there's nothing wrong with the Shahada. It's what Muslims say, where they bear witness that there's no God but God. It basically, I mean, it's the same thing that Christians and Jews believe in, that it's a monotheistic. There is no God but one God, right? There's nothing wrong with the Shahada, but Syrian society has Christians in it, and inside the Christians, you've got Syriacs, you've got Greek Orthodox, you've got Catholics, you've got Melkite Catholics, you've got, in addition to that, in the Muslims, Alawites, Shia, Sunni, you've got, Palestinians, Armenians, Bedouins, Kurds. You've got a million religious and ethnic groups. And Syria has functioned, with all these different groups, it's been able to maintain that diverse social fabric because it's had a secular government. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we have to go and get Bashar al-Assad back. No, that's not the point. But you have to keep the government secular. You've got to leave religion out of the state. For Syria specifically, because it has that diversity, because you have to hold together all these groups. Remember, 10% of Syrians are Christian. Christianity comes from Syria. Christianity was spread to the rest of the world from Syria. From Syria. Okay? It's the birthplace of Christianity. Just as much as Palestine, and besides, I mean, Palestine was part of Greater Syria anyways, right? So you can go back and if you look at older maps, Gaza was literally the end of Syria, and then you'd start with Egypt, right? So the point is, the oldest Christian sites in the world are in Palestine, and they are in Syria. You've got people in Ma'lula who still speak Aramaic, which is the same language that Jesus spoke. To this day, right now in 2024, they're still speaking it, 2,000 years later. Syriac is also a dialect of Aramaic. People still speak it in Syria. So, you can't just act like Syria is now an Islamic emirate or something like that and exclude Christians. Because when I'm looking at this as a Syrian Christian, I don't feel included by any of this. Why don't you have a flag up with a cross on it? I mean, at the same time. You know why? Because Syria is supposed to be secular. That's why. That's how you avoid bringing sectarianism in. But these people are sectarian. They are Al-Qaeda. And so this Syrian over here who is acting shocked, that why is he doing this? Why is this state institution putting up not only a new flag, but an Islamic flag when a large portion of Syrians are Christian? And you've got other minority groups. Why are you doing that? You're supposed to represent all Syrians. And that's what people who support the revolution will tell you. They say, but this is a revolution for everybody. Syria will be a democracy. Syria will be inclusive. Syria will be free. Syria will be diverse. I'm sorry, mate, but this is not it. This is not it. And, you can't just exclude a large portion of Syrian society like that and act like Christians in Syria don't exist. Not to mention the fact that Jolani himself and his minions persecuted Christians. They persecuted Christians. Just 2 days ago, there's a video in Aleppo, and I'm talking about in Iraq and in Syria with Daesh, right? They would put a noon, which is the letter N in Arabic, noon. They'd write it on people's houses, on Christian people's houses. They were killing Christians, and they also attacked Armenians, and many minority groups suffered under them, and not to mention Muslims themselves. I mean, people forget the biggest victims of Al-Qaeda and ISIS are Muslims, right? But in addition to that, they persecuted Christians. Iraq, after the US-UK invasion in 2003, which led to sectarian bloodshed fueled by the CIA, they made sure of that because they've been using divide and conquer for centuries in the Middle East, the West. After the US-UK invasion, you had this sectarian bloodshed fueled by the CIA, engineered by the Americans. And the Christian population disappeared. 80% of the Christian population in Iraq disappeared because of the US-UK invasion and because of Daesh and Al-Qaeda. They didn't kill 80%, but they killed a large number of them, and the rest fled as refugees or they took political asylum, but they left the country. So I love it when you've got these disgusting American senators who start quoting from the Bible, to lick Israel's backside. But when it comes to protecting Christians, they persecute Christians. Mike Pompeo persecutes Christians. All these people in Congress who pretend that they are, good Christians, and they go to church on Sunday, and then they fund the genocide of Palestinians. They are the #1 persecutor of Christians. They literally help to murder Christians by backing Israel and backing this Al-Qaeda scum. So going back to my point, this does not bode well. All right, this does not bode well to have a state institution, literally the first bloody photograph. And they're already indicating that they want to exclude Christians. I mean, I'm sorry, you're not going to sit there and try and lecture me about how free this is. This is backwards. This is degenerate. This is going, in reverse. Syria, under Bashar al-Assad, enjoyed protection for minorities. That's a fact. That woman, the journalist I just showed you, literally just said no one in her life, and she's born and bred and raised there, she's never been asked or interrogated about her religion in the street. Okay, under Bashar al-Assad, you didn't have ISIS roaming through Christian neighborhoods, firing Kalashnikovs into the air. I mean, what is that? How is that supposed to make people feel? And again, I wouldn't talk about Syrian Christians like they are Christians in a Muslim country. Syria, like I said, is the birthplace of Christianity. These are indigenous Christians. They are the first Christians. Do you understand that? The first in the world. They're the descendants of the first Christians in the world, just as Palestinian Christians are, by the way. So, it's unbelievable that they do this. This is not freedom and democracy. These people are murderers, and they persecute minorities. And it's just shocking. This woman here, this journalist that was stopped in the street. Remember, they didn't ask her only, "Are you Christian?" They asked, "Are you Shia? Are you Alawite? Are you Druze?" What business is it of yours? It's none of your goddamn business what religion or what sect or what background she is. That's not Syria. They've destroyed the country. They have destroyed the country. And, you know, Syrian Christians are about 10% of the population. I don't know what it is now because, as you saw with Iraq, thank you to the West, and Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Jolani, who was in Iraq. Remember, this guy committed crimes in both Iraq and Syria. He was in both. I'm sure that the population of Christians has dwindled too in Syria. It has. But, you know, Christians in Syria play huge roles. I mean, you know, in the political sphere, in media, as actors, you know, they are represented in society. That is what I'm trying to say. They're not just some minority that enjoys, you know, like protection. And no. They're equals, right? You have coexistence, and you have that among all the groups. And, you know, even Jews who lived in Syria, that was the last country that had its population of its Jewish population ethnically cleansed by Israel. Right? They did Iraq first, and they did Egypt first, and they brought all of them to Israel because they want to populate their colony. But they couldn't get the Jews in Syria until the 1990s, and they only did it through American pressure. So America and Israel ethnically cleansed the Jews of Damascus, of Syria, of Aleppo, and moved them to America and Israel because they want to, you know, grow their numbers in occupied Palestine. But it just goes to show you that they've all minorities enjoyed protection, equal rights, even Palestinians. You know, if you look at how they're treated in Lebanon, you look how Palestinians are treated in Arab countries, they don't even have basic rights. The only Arab country that would treat Palestinians as equals is Syria. And they wouldn't be given nationality just so that they could claim the right to return as refugees once Palestine would be liberated. But they would still have to join the army, right? So as a citizen, you have rights and responsibilities. And Palestinians had all of those rights and responsibilities, just like any Syrian citizen. And you know, it's all of this stuff now is being imperiled by these nut jobs who've taken over. And the British media and the German media and the American media are whitewashing these scumbags as some kind of freedom movement. They've sent the country backwards, man. We're watching public executions today. They're going through Alawite villages, you know, and on the coast. You know, they were all over the place, and they're executing people. Look, this is Steve Sweeney over here. He says, I've been speaking to people that have fled Syria, and they're describing horrific scenes and hunts, terror groups hunting down former soldiers and members of the Shia community, slitting throats, and even beheading people, all of which is being sanitized or ignored by Western media, organizations and others who are accused of acting as a PR arm for Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. And here is a post by Elijah. The real face of what we know as Jabhat al-Nusra, aka Hayat Tahrir al-Sham in Ladiyeh, is revealed with dozens of executions in the streets. Films are available of executions in mass. It's true. I've watched several of them, and it's absolutely horrific. And all this stuff about, oh, soldiers who surrender will be safe is a lie. And we will treat Christians okay. That's a lie. You saw the woman, what she said, she's being harassed, both as a Christian and as a journalist, right? So and that's another thing. They said they'll protect journalists. That's a lie. Syria is gone. It's gone. It's really, I mean, what can I say? Look at this. Public executions. That's what the country is devolved into. I mean, really, just shame on all of the scum who cheered this on. Shame on them. And the worst part is many of them aren't even Syrian. They don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They got their heads so far up their own asses, they've come out again in their own mouths. They don't know what the hell they're saying. Really, got no clue. They've been drinking that Kool-Aid, you know? But Joe Biden and Netanyahu are not tyrants. They're not murderers. Their governments are administrations, not regimes. But Bashar al-Assad, oh, he's a regime, the butcher, the tyrant, blah, 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 blah. And these bunch of terrorists that have taken over, they're not tyrants. They're not murderers. They're not persecutors. They love freedom and democracy. How dumb can you be? How can you understand Palestine, but you can't understand Syria? And that you can't understand that they're intertwined. Because let me make something very clear. The day Syria was lost, Palestine was lost. All right? Understand that. Understand that. One day you will if you don't today. You'll get it one day. And who wins out of all this? The Israelis, of course, with their Greater Israel project. Huh? Oh, don't think they finished with that. As a matter of fact, let's look at Syria. You know, you've got the part west of the east of the Euphrates that looks like it's not in their plan, but America's there. This is where all the oil is. This is where all the crops are, right there. Okay. So, as a matter of fact, you could say all of Syria is now under Greater Israel's control. And they will keep going. They will keep going, man. They will keep going. It's not a coincidence that the day that ceasefire came into effect in Lebanon, that all of a sudden these rebels, these freedom fighters, they launch an offensive. That's not a coincidence. Israel got tired in Lebanon, so they then moved to Syria. Right? It's a salami tactic. They're going one by one by one by one. And what's really shocking is to see this scumbag, Jolani, come into Jami' al-Amawin, which is the Umayyad mosque in Syria, in Damascus, right? Not the one in Aleppo. This is in Damascus. And give a speech there desecrating this. I mean, let me show you actually with the subtitles so you can understand what kind of direction the country is going in, because the way that he speaks is very clear that there's no interest in democracy, and it's all about fanaticism. Okay, let me show you. It's all about fanaticism.
حاشا لله أن يظلم هذا الطاغية كل أهل سوريا. ما من بيت في سوريا إلا وقد طرقته باب الحق. ما من بيت في سوريا إلا وقد طرق بابه الحق. والحمد لله اليوم تتعافى سوريا بإذن الله. هذا النصر يا أخواني. الحمد لله. جديد للأمة الإسلامية بأكملها. هذا النصر يا أخواني تاريخ جديد للمنطقة. كم تلافينا من مخاطر. ترك سوريا تركها مزرعة للأطماع الإيرانية، نشر فيها الطائفية، أثار فيها الفساد، أصبحت مصنعا للكبتاجون في العالم. واليوم تتطهر سوريا بفضل الله عز وجل، بفضل الله عز وجل ثم بفضل المجاهدين الأبطال. هذا النصر يا أخواني بفضل الله عز وجل، ثم بدماء الشهداء وبالأرامل وباليتامى. هذا النصر يا أخواني بعذابات الناس الذين قبعوا في السجون. وبفضل الله عز وجل قام المجاهدون بتحريرهم بكسر القيد رغما عن أكل الطاغية. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أنصح الأمم بأجمعها إن ضاع لها حق أن تبقى تطالب به حتى تناله بإذن الله، وأن يخير الله.
I think you guys couldn't hear me. I'm going to repeat what I just said. I was just saying that the Umayyad Mosque has been there for thousands of years. Okay, it used to be half church, half mosque. So that shows you until the 7th century, right? It shows you how diverse Syria is, how pluralistic. Muslims and Christians would walk in and pray in the same building right next to each other. In the 7th until the 7th century, right? And then before that, it was a church. Before that, it was a Roman temple, a Greek temple, and an Aramaean temple. So it's been there thousands of years. It's seen all empires, come and go. All sorts of leaders come and go. So to have this scumbag, pontificating there about tyranny and talking about foreign. He talks about Iran while Israel is bombing Damascus. There are Israeli tanks rolling up to Damascus on the outskirts of Damascus, and he doesn't say a word. I mean, the hypocrisy here is off the charts. It's off the bloody charts. Go and fight Israel. Why are you standing here and giving speeches? What is wrong with you? The country's under attack. Have you lost your mind? I can't take these people seriously. They don't want to help Syria. They want to destroy Syria. They are helping Israel, as a matter of fact. And look, this is right next to the Umayyad Mosque. This is Suq al-Hamidiyya, which is the Hamidiyya Bazaar or Souk. And look, they're just walking through it with the ISIS flag. I mean... So, it's been overrun by extremists. That's what's happened to Syria. And look at what he's saying to Sky News. So he's talking to Sky News, and
هي مو جاهزة أبدا لتدخل في الحروب ولا ناوية تدخل في الحروب إطلاقا. على العكس مصدر الطلب كان فيها هو تواجد ميليشيات الإيرانية وميليشيات حزب الله ووجود النظام نفسه اللي قام بمجازفة وشايفين.
Again, talking to us about Iran. Why are you still talking about Iran? You have control of the country now. What are you doing about Israel? Don't give me this. You saw what he said. He's saying, oh, the country is exhausted from war. I'm sure it is. But guess what? It's not a choice because the country is already at war. Israel has invaded. Israel is advancing. It's not a choice. You have to defend the country. But of course, he did nothing because he is an agent of Israel. Consciously or otherwise, it doesn't matter. He is serving Israeli interests. He is standing aside, allowing Israel to advance, to steal land that will not be recovered for generations, weapons that took 50 years to amass, that won't be recovered for generations. I mean, the way they have set back Syria materially, they've left it defenseless. They have destroyed the economy with their war, with their so-called revolution. They helped and encouraged the imposition of sanctions, which haven't been lifted, in case you didn't notice. How bizarre. And now they're also, they're relinquishing land to an occupation that's already had control of the Golan Heights since 1967. They've just allowed it to steal even more land. It's on the outskirts of Damascus. What on earth are they waiting for? You can't reason with these people, really. It's like talking to a wall. So well done. This is the revolution. This is the so-called revolution. And miraculously, look at this. Syria's new government announces it will move away from state-controlled economy to a free market model to attract investment. Who could have seen this coming? Oh, all in the service of Wall Street, all in the service of the West. Well done. If you don't understand why this is a bad thing, let me explain something to you. investment is not bad per se. But one of the reasons they've wanted to destroy Syria for such a long time is because Syria understood that, having foreign debt is very bad. That's how they control you with the IMF, with the World Bank and other institutions. So it's best to get rid of that. And Syria was one of the few countries that didn't have a central bank controlled by the West or connected to the West, the West institutions and having its monetary and financial policy decided by the West. It didn't have a lot of foreign debt. It got rid of it, and it was independent and resource sufficient. Okay, it was self-sufficient, growing wheat, growing cotton, lentils. There's enough oil for it to bring in. There's oil enough to bring in good amounts of revenue to subsidize free education, free healthcare. Okay, and so for the West, this makes them go ballistic. What, you won't recognize Israel? You're not going to accept that we steal your land? You're not going to allow Western corporations and multinationals to eat and take over your economy like parasites? Well, you're a dictator now, aren't you? You're a dictator. That's the criteria for being a dictator. But as soon as you do this, right, now that you're a free market economy that is ripe for the taking by the Gulf, right? Remember, we shouldn't forget what they did to Syria. They want places to put their money now, don't they? And for the West, I mean, now suddenly you're not a terrorist organization anymore because they just removed HTS from the list of terrorist groups in the US. What a coincidence. Reminds me of when Sudan accepted to normalize ties with Israel, and then suddenly they removed it from the list of state sponsors of terrorism. So you start to understand now that this word terrorism is a bunch of bogus. It's only used to coerce countries into doing Israel's bidding and America's bidding, more specifically Wall Street's bidding. Do you understand now? I mean, the scum. There's a saying in Arabic, but basically, when a cow dies, the knives come out. That's basically what it means, right? And that's what's happening with Syria right now, right? Everyone is getting their blades. They're getting their blades out, and they're sharpening their blades, and they're ready to all take a chunk and take a slice out of Syria. Even the Turks are taking even more land than before. You can see them here. They're advancing in with their troops. And like I said, they already had control of Idlib for a long time. They had de facto annexed it, and people were using Turkish currency there to that point. So yeah, here, look at this. This is in Aleppo. So you can see Turkish convoys going in. Do you think that they're going to fight Israel? Of course not. Of course not. Erdogan just talks, right? He talks and blah, blah, blah about how, yeah, he's going to stand up to the Israelis, and he's going to help Gaza. And then what does he do? He delivers oil. He brings oil from Baku, from Azerbaijan, which is a sister nation of Turkey. And he transfers it to Israel for it to put in its jets and its tanks when it's bombing Syria and when it's bombing Palestine. That he is a Zionist to the core, right? I don't care how many embassies or ties he severs with Israel, or how many times he does it rather. It's a show. What stuns me is that so many Muslims fall for this guy's verbal diarrhea. It's shocking. How can you believe this guy? He's literally providing material support for the IDF to butcher Arabs and Muslims. Dude, and you believe what he says? Forget what he says. Look at what he does. Now, you remember, I covered this a couple of years ago in 2021 when Biden took power, and Wolf Blitzer on CNN did an interview with Blinken, and they talked about the Golan Heights because Donald Trump, who is also a great gift to the Zionists, he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He declared Jerusalem as the Israeli capital as if it belongs to him. And then he declared that the Golan Heights, which are Syrian, again, as if they belong to him, are Israeli. So he violated international law, UN Security Council resolutions 242497. And then, the Biden administration, excuse me, as it came in, was asked, will you maintain those positions? Here's Blinken's answer.
President Biden is ending U.S. military support for Saudi and Emirati offensive operations in Yemen, pausing arms sales to those countries. Does President Biden intend to substantially change the U.S.-Saudi relationship?
Well, first, on Yemen itself, Wolf, three things are critical. One, we are ending our support for the military campaign led by Saudi Arabia in Yemen.
Here it is.
The Trump administration, as you know, also recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which Israel captured from Syria back in 1967. Will your administration, the Biden administration, continue to see the Golan Heights as part of Israel?
Look, leaving aside the legalities of that question, as a practical matter.
So that means screw international law. Just translating, just interpreting.
The Golan is very important to Israel's security. As long as Assad is in power in Syria, as long as Iran is present in Syria, militia groups backed by Iran, the Assad regime itself, all of these pose a significant security threat to Israel. And as a practical matter, the control of the Golan in that situation, I think, remains of real importance to Israel's security. Legal questions are something else, and over time, if the situation were to change in Syria, that's something we look at. But
oh, well, I have news for you, Secretary Blinken. You'll never guess. The situation did change in Syria. Assad is gone. Are you going to tell Israel to hand over the Golan Heights? You know, you voted for this at the UN Security Council, so it's not like an opinion. It's a legally binding order by the UN to get out and to leave the Golan Heights. So Assad is gone. What are you doing? You are the Secretary of State, are you not? You're still in power, are you not? Oh, that's right. You were lying. Oh, I see. Yeah. That thing you always do when your mouth moves. Right. You see what bullshitters these people are? You know? And the sanctions, the Caesar sanctions they put on Syria to cripple Syria. Why haven't they been lifted? I thought they were to... here, let's look up the White House memo on this. Right? Right, so they put the sanctions on Syria, and they wanted to put pressure on the Syrian government, and of course what they're doing is they are starving Syrian people, right? But they wouldn't tell you that. And have they lifted the sanctions now that Assad is gone? No. Oh, that's right. Why? Because they're liars. So this goes to show you that once again you can't appease Zionists, you can't appease imperialists. And that this never was about Bashar al-Assad. I mean, again, if you're that naive, you really think America and Israel give a crap about democracy in Syria or democracy anywhere, you're a lunatic and you have been duped. And this is why I find it so stunning that people understand, oh, when America said that, and Britain said that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction, they were lying just so they can invade Iraq. Yes, that's true. But when they say that Bashar al-Assad has chemical weapons so they can bomb Syria, you don't understand that that's a lie? You know, it's just next door to Iraq, so it's not. You don't have to look that far away on the map. No, you don't get it? Okay, what a shame. So unfortunately, we have people who get why invading Iraq was bad, why bombing Libya was bad, why bombing Palestine is bad, but then when it comes to Syria, they support Zionism. These people have you know, chairs for a brain. I mean, they are dumb. They're as thick as they come. They never learn. And they repeat all the State Department lingo. They repeat all the State Department lingo, right? They will never call a Western leader a butcher, even though any US president has a higher body count than Bashar al-Assad and has actually used weapons of mass destruction, right? But they'll never say that because their minds have been colonized. They are slaves. They are slaves to the West. Their minds have been taken over. Oh, Bashar al-Assad is a dictator. He's a tyrant. But they'll never say that about the West, right? Again, I was only arrested for being a journalist in Britain. I wasn't arrested in Syria for being a journalist, for my work. So why aren't you calling the UK a regime? Huh? Why isn't the US a regime? Tell me that. You don't even have basic, you know, your basic needs are not even met in the US. That's how much of a regime it is. That's how much the ruling class eats the people alive. You haven't got healthcare. You haven't got free education. You're on your own. You know, there's no social safety net. You're screwed. But of course, you know, when Gaddafi brings in water, you know, with the great man-made river, and he diverts it to farmland and you know, makes the desert bloom, literally, right? Unlike what the Israelis claim they do, right? That's the eighth wonder of the world, they called it, right? And what happens then? NATO bombs it, of course. That's destroyed. When he improves the rate of literacy in Libya, he's still a dictator. When you know, he's helping people overthrow real tyrants, real you know, murderous regimes around the world that are supported by the West. No, he's still bad. So they get rid of him, and then they give you, what does Libya have? Does anyone know? Oh, slave markets, and it's cut up into 3 different regions, and it's a mess. It's still a mess 13 years later. And that's what they did to Iraq. Iraq is still occupied. Iraq is not better off now than it was before. It just isn't. All these American companies came in. You know, Dick Cheney was... He was vice president. Excuse me. He was vice president under Bush, but just before that, he was the head of Halliburton, right? And that's one of the companies that made a huge killing off of the war in Iraq, literally, by the way. And also, I'm talking about their bank accounts. So they came in, they took Iraq's oil supply, they destroyed that country, and it's still occupied. And now Syria is being destroyed. Syria was the last anti-Zionist Arab state. And the point is, no matter how bad you want to say al-Assad was, you can't tell me that now the country's better. It's not. It just is not better. And you go fool someone else. I was there. I saw how Syria was getting better every single year. I saw that with my own eyes. So someone who is from, you know, the UK, who is not Syrian, has no connection to Syria, has never been there, has no right to come and lecture me and tell me about how free I'm supposed to feel right now. Get the hell out. You don't know what you're talking about. You just mindlessly call a foreign leader a butcher because CNN and Sky News told you so? Why don't you just read a fucking book? Is that so difficult? Is that so difficult? Okay, forget reading. You could just listen to me. I'm telling you, the infrastructure was constantly being modernized, man, all the time. Not at, you know, a lightning rate speed, but it was being modernized every single year. In 2011, in Damascus, you no longer had electricity cuts. Usually you would have electricity cuts every single day. Every single day you'd have like 2 hours where the electricity would suddenly go out because Syria couldn't keep up, right? And of course, Syria is under sanctions. This is before Caesar Act, right? It's been under sanctions for decades because of the reasons I outlined before, because it won't recognize Israel. It won't give up its central bank, its monetary policy, its market to the West. That's why. So they crush it. But you had electricity cuts every single day. And by 2011, you had electricity all day, right? I'm not saying they never happened, but they were basically non-existent. Didn't even think about them anymore, right? And water is being improved as well. Public infrastructure, roads, pavements, all of it being renewed, constantly being renewed. You know, new highways and all of this stuff being, you know, modernized, things that the country needs to run on. I'm not talking about building armies to go and invade people in other countries. No. Stuff that you benefits the public, right? And of course, you had free education, you got free healthcare. But no, they got to go and destroy all of that. What does Syria have now? Nothing. It's just under sanctions. You know, you got to wait in line to get fuel. You got to wait in line to get bread. You got to sit at home in the dark because the electricity gets cut. It's even worse than it was before, right? Like in 2005, 2006, you might get 3 hours where, you know, throughout the day where there's no electricity for about 3 hours or something like that. You know, it could be less, could be more, but the electricity cuts were quite constant. It was bad. But now you're lucky if you get 3 hours of electricity a day. You know what I mean? So instead of 3 hours of cuts, you get 3 hours of power now, right? And of course, it's fluctuating, and I don't know if they're going to make it better. That remains to be seen. But I don't see how they are going to do anything different when they won't even lift a finger to fight Israel. Well, what have they sent a letter to the Americans telling them to remove the sanctions? What have they done? What have they done? They're the reason the country is destroyed. They're the reason the country was destroyed. These people were shelling Damascus University. These people were blowing up infrastructure. They were stealing oil and doing it in such a crappy, backwards way that they were polluting the environment. Because the state knew how to extract the oil properly because it's the state's bloody business. These terrorists, ISIS, and then it was all going to Turkey, of course. they were stealing it and doing it in a way that just gave people easily preventable diseases, but people who live nearby getting sick. The stuff is seeping into the ground. I mean, just morons, really. Just robbing the country, hollowing it out at all costs, right? Just so they can make money and finance terrorism. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I don't know how the country is going to recover from this, but they've really made sure to destroy it. But hey, it's a free market economy now. Right? Apparently, there's no more dictatorship. But, if you're a journalist and you're a Christian, we'll harass you in the street. Oh, man. Oh, man. What have these donkeys done? What have these donkeys done? So look at that. That's where we're at right now. Israel have taken even larger chunks now of the Golan Heights. I mean, just look at that. It's a disaster, and this map is wrong. They are already in Qatana. They're already here, and that Damascus, outskirts of Damascus, are right there. I mean, this is shocking, really shocking. It's the first time the Israelis invade Syria in 50 years. Okay, so Syria was managing to keep them at bay, and you had a lot of people, including myself, by the way. Even I would criticize the fact that Israeli jets are coming in and bombing Syria, and no one is doing anything about it. Honestly, now we can really see why they weren't going in. First of all, the Russians were there; they weren't shooting down any jets, and I was criticizing them for that too. But there was deterrence to a certain degree. You can't look at this situation of the last 48 hours where they've destroyed the entire military arsenal of Syria, and then say that that's better. Now you see. But that I warned people about this. We warned you about this. We warned you Syria will become sectarian, that it cannot handle that. We warned you that Israel will take more land, that Turkey will take more land, that America will not leave. I mean, what can you say? What can you say to people who just refuse to get it? And what's funny is that if you go and look at the list of Syrian presidents, and I'm talking about the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, the level of instability is outrageous, honestly. You would have a coup, and then 24 hours later, there would be another coup. So there was like a guy who was president for 24 hours. Actually, two guys. Yeah, it actually happened twice, where you had two Syrian presidents that managed to last 24 hours after they had carried out a coup before themselves being couped, right? That's the level of political instability. And then after Hafez al-Assad, he was in power for, 27 years or something like that? A long time, and then his son took over. And no, it's not democratic. Of course not. But, most Syrians, when there were elections, they did want Bashar al-Assad because they understood, okay, we trade off, democracy for stability, for security, for foreign policy that we actually like. But now we're apparently supposed to celebrate because now we have democracy and freedom where this happens. So now you can see the new government. I mean, honestly, you can put anyone in power in Syria and people are not going to be happy. And whoever comes next is not going to do a better job by any circumstances. As a matter of fact, it will get much, much, much worse. So people are celebrating, in Sahl al-Amouin, in the Umayyad Square, and people are celebrating around the world. Most of them, of course, are not Syrian, and they have no skin in the game and don't know what they're talking about. But you have a large chunk of Syrians that were celebrating, but they don't know what's coming. And a year from now, 2 years from now, they will wish for the old days, just like many Iraqis and many Libyans will wish for the old days. As a matter of fact, I saw a viral video of a guy from Libya saying that I was the same thing. I was clapping and celebrating the day that Gaddafi fell, and now we would wish to have him back. Go! If you know Libyans and Iraqis, go talk to them. Not everyone is going to have that point of view, but many will. Many will. They wish that they could go back to back then, not because it was perfect, but because it beats whatever crap came afterwards. Only a liar or a lunatic is, seriously going to sit there and tell you Syria is better off today than it was in 2011, or that it will be better off than it was in 2011. This land that Israel's taken, you're never getting it back. No. And Netanyahu is even saying we are never leaving the Golan Heights. They want to build their greater Israel. You saw what it looks like. You saw how Smotrich 4 weeks ago is still, he's openly saying this. This is government policy, right? These people are nuts. Look at what they're doing in Gaza. These sanctions, the damage that this whole war has done, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, really. Now the question is, why did Bashar al-Assad go to Moscow? Why didn't he leave before? If he was going to leave anyway? Why did the army not fight? Why did they surrender? I don't have the answers to those questions. I don't know. So what it seems to be that there was a deal. Now my hunch, and it's just speculation, is that someone in mid-level management, maybe the generals, or again, that's not mid-level, is it? But, you know, basically in the army, some of the top brass told the troops not to fight. Maybe, I don't know. But someone sold Syria out. That much is clear. And probably by that point, when Bashar al-Assad realized what was going on and realized that the situation is not, you know, is hopeless or it can't be salvaged, he went and buggered off to Moscow and asked for asylum. And, you know, it's you could probably say it's the end of not just Syria, but the axis of resistance. I don't know. Again, this is, we will only see the results of that long term. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the reasons of why this unfolded or happened in the last couple of days without anyone firing a shot, right? You can see that there's a video filmed by a Russian where they're driving down a column, and, you know, you've got just really columns and columns and columns of Syrian troops walking and basically surrendering and not fighting. And you have some videos of Syrian soldiers saying that they were told, they were explicitly ordered not to fight. Now, obviously, that's good from one perspective because we don't want any more bloodshed, do we? No one wants to have a civil war. No one wants to see more killing. That's great. But the question is, why did that happen? Because what's coming now is not bloody great, is it? It's not bloody great. So why was the country handed over to a bunch of lunatics without a fight? Why don't Al-Qaeda hand over their weapons without a fight? That would be much better, wouldn't it? Instead of having them running the country now. And NATO running the country and sucking up Syria's oil and controlling its crops, and Israel taking more land. I mean, this is a disaster. This is an absolute disaster. You know, and seeing these public executions, these videos coming out, I mean, it's horrific, really horrific. They executed soldiers that were, I think they might have been Kurdish, I don't know, but they were basically in their beds. They're you know, at best, you arrest them as POWs, but they're clearly wounded, and they just executed them in their beds. There's another one where they were beating one up, and then they shot him with an AK. Actually, a group of them shot this guy with an AK, like several, I don't know how many dozens of rounds they emptied into him. You know, public lynchings, hangings. It's descended into chaos. It's barbaric. It's barbaric. They've destroyed Syria. They have ruined an awesome, and I mean that in every sense of the word, an awesome country, really. It's the cradle of civilization, and instead we get scum like ISIS and Al-Qaeda taking over and turning it into a sectarian country when it has never been a sectarian country. You know, this doesn't work. Unless Syria stays a secular country and it has, you know, a form of government that's pluralistic, that's democratic, that is actually, you know, that actually represents Syrian and Arab interests and Palestinian interests, is screwed. And these people don't stand for any of that. That is the problem. So we can see from a mile away what is going to happen. You know, it's like I said, you got rid of Bashar al-Assad, you got rid of a faulty car, and then you got a bicycle instead. Well done. You didn't get a brand new car. You got a bicycle instead of a car that half works. Well done, you idiots. Well done. Congratulations. And again, no one is going to come here and you know, lecture me and start acting like they got more skin in the game. Again, I've got every interest to see Syria thrive. I'm born there. You know, I'm a journalist, so I care about free speech. I care about having democracy. I am, you know, a Syrian Christian. I care about how minorities are represented, that they have equal rights, that it is actually a functioning democracy. So no one is going to come here and act like, you know, they know better and that they love Syria more. No. If you love Syria, you wouldn't have plunged it into this age of darkness. And it's been there for 13 years, and now it's going to get much worse. Syria, like every country, has a portion of society who are stupid. This is the truth. Just like in America, just like in Britain, just like in France and Germany, you have people, a portion of society who are extremists in one form or another, who are fanatics. And the fanatics have just been given, in Syria, have just been given the keys to Damascus. This is bad for everyone. And I'm telling you, Syrians, including those who supported the revolution, are already, I showed you just earlier, are already regretting what they have done. And it's only going to get worse. Ignore all these statements from this so-called government saying that, they're going to protect journalists and protect minorities and give amnesty to, troops in the Syrian army. They're not. They're not. As soon as their cameras haven't even turned away from Damascus, and you can already see how they're behaving. So it's a very dark day indeed. It's a very, very dark day. And, it goes without saying, Erdogan, Netanyahu are all behind this. They are all behind this. What's funny is that these so-called rebels who claim to be acting on behalf of Syrians, right? Yeah, they really love the Syrian people. They went and unfurled a Turkish flag over the citadel in Aleppo, okay? Which again goes to show you who they're really working for. Where the bloody hell is it? Yeah. Here, so you see this photo over here? Look at them. A Turkish flag. It's not even their rebel flag, their new flag. Just it really makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? And what I find so ridiculous is that they're still churning out propaganda. So instead of focusing on the fact that the country's being bloody invaded by Israel, they start saying, "Oh no, we can't focus on that." This is not the government, by the way. It's just like random people, of course. People who still haven't woken up to the nightmare that they've created, saying, "Well, we've got to liberate the prisons." Okay, hold on a second. Liberate the prisons. I'm all in favor of political prisoners being freed. All right, I'm suffering from a political persecution. I covered Assange's thing. I know a bit about political persecutions. I'm the first one who will say get the political prisoners out. But how do you know that every single person in the jail, that you're not releasing a pedophile or a murderer or a rapist or someone who's part of ISIS? But I guess the latter doesn't count that much since the government is ISIS. So yeah, I guess we might as well let them out, right? I mean, look at the level of lunacy. The regime, the so-called regime, is gone, right? So you have control. So can't you run proper state institutions now, like courts, and give people a fair trial and assess their cases? Go on. Why do you just open the doors? I mean, like, do these people not think 5 steps ahead, or rather 5 minutes ahead, or one step ahead? Yeah, due process is all we're calling for here, and there's no due process. It's just like, let's open the gates. The other thing, you've got people handing out weapons, buying weapons in the street, like underage people, kids. I mean, it's like they have bazaars, mini street shops, street vendors of weapons. Once again, this is a recipe for disaster. Where is the state? This so-called revolution that you wanted to have so badly. Where is it? And then you look at the problem with Sedlaya prison. Sedlaya prison has horror stories in it. No one is denying or doubting that. But they were saying that you have 150,000 people in Sedlaya prison. I mean, this is the thing that I hate about some elements, a lot of elements in the Syrian opposition, is that they could easily make real legitimate criticism of al-Assad. They could say, his cousin owns half the economy. There's nepotism. Corruption is widespread. These are real criticisms. But instead, they go and make lies up about chemical weapons so they can bring the West in and invite NATO in to bomb the country. And of course, they're usually working with NATO. It's not like they came up with it by themselves. They're tools of NATO. But they go along with it. And it's just like, these exiled Iranians, these exiled Cubans who want nothing more than to see America invade their own countrymen and bomb their own countrymen in Cuba and in Iran. Same thing with Syrian opposition. A lot of them are lunatics. They are ready to kill their own countrymen just so they can have power. So it's not about democracy or everybody being equal. It's about their wet dream of controlling the country. You understand? It's their power trip. And the thing is, with Saydnaya prison, they were saying things like, oh, there are 150,000 people. Why are you still making this shit up? Israel is invading. Al-Assad is gone. You got the country. Move your ass. Get off your fucking ass and start fighting. What are you doing? What are you doing for the country? It's yours. It's your mess. Clean it up. Israel wasn't invading when Al-Assad was there. You got them to invade because you're just standing aside, and they know they can walk all over you. Which again, either makes you incompetent or you're acting as their agents. And in either case, once again, you shouldn't really be in power, should you? This is their legacy, huh? So they would make things up. Chemical weapons, when Syria, the government was actually winning the war back then, right? They suddenly used chemical weapons. And WikiLeaks debunked this, and I've done a million videos on it. And then with Saydnaya prison, it's saying 150,000 people. There's no prison in the world that has 150,000 people in it. It doesn't exist. That's larger than a football stadium. Saydnaya prison cannot fit that many people in there. There's no need to lie. There are enough horror stories about Saydnaya prison without having to invent numbers of, colossal proportions. So you see, it's like they haven't stopped. They're still wasting time making propaganda and whining about Al-Assad instead of, running the country. And I saw a document, although I haven't verified it. I haven't verified this, but it said the number is about 4,000 inmates. That's more realistic. And how they were treated in there, who the hell knows? I mean, again, say if you're in Saydnaya prison, like I said, many horror stories from there. No one is going to deny that. But the 150,000, they were saying even that you have like multiple floors of the prison, like there's like levels underground, like Syria, this sanctioned state that is on its last legs, is feeding and housing 150,000 people in an underground base facility. Well, like, you have to be a lunatic to believe this. It sounds like something Israel made up with the Al-Shifa hospital underground complex, or when they said Bin Laden has like an underground James Bond villain type of thing. It's such a neocon lie. But unfortunately, a lot of people bought this nonsense, but there aren't 150,000 people there. It's ridiculous. So, you had memes that started to come out. I was saying that Tupac is probably alive on the 99th floor of a Saydnaya prison. Like that, they spouted this so much that it became a joke almost. It became a laughing stock. And there's no need because Assad is gone. So, what is the propaganda for? Run the country. Go on. There are a million things to solve. But no, they're not going to fight Israel. They're not going to do anything to hold on to the military assets, which guarantees the country's sovereignty. No. They did nothing about people looting the central bank. As a matter of fact, these rebels, so-called rebels, are the ones that looted the central bank of Damascus. America and Israel love chaos. They did the same thing with Baghdad. They allowed widespread looting after they pretended that they were there to protect the country and save the country and give it democracy and freedom. Right, and then Donald Rumsfeld said something like, well, freedom is messy. Oh, okay. So you won't mind if I go to Wall Street and just like loot a bunch of banks and, just screw up your stock market and do what I want? I have the freedom to do that. We have different definitions of freedom, I suppose. I believe in freedom of the press, but they believe in freedom of chopping people's heads off. So they looted the central bank. They've also looted the museums, which makes me even more angry. I mean, really, just anyone who is truly Syrian, and if you go by the words of André Poirot, who is the director of the Louvre Museum in Paris, he said everybody is Syrian in the world. You got two nationalities, your own and Syria, because that's the cradle of civilization. So everybody should be angry about archaeological sites and artifacts and antiques being stolen from museums. And the Americans did that in Baghdad, which is just as much rich in its ancient history, and they did that in Syria now in the last days. And ISIS did that before with Palmyra. They blew up the arch. They tried to get a lot of artifacts out of the museum, and they killed the director. I mean, we are dealing with the scum of the earth. These people that have taken over, they are the scum of the earth. They are barbaric, uncivilized, backwards people. Many of them are not even from Syria, and that's why they behave like this, because they are like a bunch of hooligans who are on the loose. They're lunatics on the loose. So they don't care about the future of the country, about its assets, cultural, military, or otherwise. They don't. And those that are Syrian and behave like this they're the ones who should be the most ashamed of themselves, honestly. Jolani. You know, what a fitting name, El-Jolani. We know who's in the Golan Heights, don't we? Right? Instead of going and liberating the Jolan, which he names himself after, it's not his real name, but, you know, instead of going and liberating it, no. You know, we got to change the flags. The flags are more important. Let me give a little speech here. And there's a photo of him just watching the Israeli bombings over Damascus. Very, very good photo, because it just shows you that he's doing absolutely nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is you know, a Mossad asset. I'm pretty certain. You know, he was in a prison in Iraq, not Abu Ghraib. It's not that one. There's another jail where they had Baghdadi in there as well. And a lot of these what the Americans will do is they'll have the CIA go into these prisons and they'll find the most extremist ones and then recruit them as assets, right? It's basically clandestine human intelligence recruitment, and they get them to go out and create movements like this, just like Bin Laden was an asset for the CIA. You know, and they used the Mujahideen with the Maktab al-Khadamat, the Bureau of Services in Peshawar, to run and recruit all these foreign fighters. They do the same thing. They had Jolani then go into Syria, open a branch of Al-Qaeda, and then, which Al-Qaeda itself, as we know, is a CIA op, and then, you know, wreak havoc on the country. And who do these people benefit? Israel, America, Turkey, NATO. So they've destroyed Syria, and I have no hope for the country. And now, in addition to Britain, Syria has fallen to the Zionists, to the Israelis, and to NATO. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's honestly not just a shame. It's an affront on on our collective humanity, that these scumbags, these head-chopping, genocidal lunatics, have been allowed to get away with what they're doing in Gaza, in Palestine, in Lebanon, in Syria. Scum. They're scum. Netanyahu, Keir Starmer, Jolani, Erdogan, all of them. They're scumbags. They are the lowest of the low. They don't care about other human beings. They don't care about you know, their fellow countrymen. They don't care about human rights, international law. Nothing. It's all power and money for these people. And here's the cherry on top. Listen to this. To this clown.
Deputy Speaker, this government chose not to re-engage. We said no, because Assad is a monster. We said no because Assad was a dictator whose sole interest was his wealth and his power. And we said no because Assad is a criminal who defied all laws and norms to use chemical weapons against the Syrian people. We said no because Assad is a butcher with the blood of countless innocents on his hands. And we said no because Assad was a drug dealer, funding his regime through Captagon and illicit finance. And we said no because he was never, ever going to change. There were those who used to call Assad the Lion of Damascus. Now we see the reality. Assad is the rat of Damascus, fleeing to Moscow with his tail between his legs. How fitting he should end up there.
I mean, that's rich coming from this sack of dog shit. The foreign secretary heads MI6. Head of MI6 reports to the foreign secretary. So this guy's by definition running a whole link and chain of spooks. Okay, so he lies flow out of his mouth like you know, roll off his tongue like water. So for him, as he's arming Israel while it's committing genocide in Palestine, giving them chemical weapons, remember that Israel is using white phosphorus, he made sure that the ICC arrest warrants were delayed. And then he has the nerve to talk about international law and every law and dictator. Motherfucker, I was arrested again in London. I wasn't arrested in Damascus. You want to talk about fucking democracy, you piece of shit? The nerve of the nerve, really. Here's the Queen, by the way. Here's the Queen with Assad and his wife, okay? When they were meeting, this is in the early 2000s, okay? And here he is also with Charles, okay? And here he is with Tony Blair at number 10. By the way, he didn't just meet the Queen, he stayed at Buckingham Palace as a guest. Yeah? He stayed there as a guest. So here he is, Tony Blair, with Bashar al-Assad and his wife. And here's Nancy Pelosi visiting Bashar al-Assad in Damascus. Okay? She went all the way there. So when they wanted him and his money and Syria's wealth, they were trying to woo him, right? Back then, he wasn't a dictator, right? And the funniest one is a drug dealer. The people making Captagon in Syria were ISIS, and we know who backs ISIS. It's you, Mr. Lamy, and your friends. So, you know, who do you think you're kidding? But you see how they were trying to woo him. They brought out all the big guns, right? They really wanted Syria to become a free market economy, as they just succeeded in doing now. They wanted Syria under their control. They wanted to bring it into the fold. They wanted it to become another puppet regime, like like Egypt, like Jordan, like Saudi Arabia, all this stuff. A client state / puppet regime that basically normalizes ties with Israel and plays nice with Western corporations. And when that didn't work, well, he had to go. And remember, that memo from the US Embassy in Damascus, when they say they're studying his weaknesses to try and get rid of him, it was published by WikiLeaks, is from 2006. So they had planned that 5 years before the so-called Arab Spring. Okay? They were planning that very early on. And that's about when Assad, that's after the first years that Assad took power. I think when did his father die? 99, year 2000, something like that, yeah? So they had tried for just a few short years to woo him, and that didn't work, and then they decided, okay, he's got to go. And now they've succeeded. Now they've turned Syria a secular, a secular Arab socialist country into some kind of Al-Qaeda emirate that allows Israel to steal land, and God knows what's going to happen to its people and its resources. But don't worry, because they're diversity-friendly jihadists. Don't worry. Right? I'm sure they will treat Christians, and they will treat minorities and journalists with the utmost respect. I'm sure. Right? We saw how they treat people. Right? There's nothing to worry about. They're reformed now. They're reformed. Mr. Jolani is a new man. Right? He's a new man. Fear not. Fear not. So thank you for your donations. I will read some of your super chats and your comments. Elijah says, "Salam, Richard. May Allah grant you ease and victory." Thank you, And we have another one here from Sam. Thank you, Sam, for supporting my work. I appreciate it very much. And we have another donation on PayPal from Panda. Thank you, Panda. And another one from Mark. Thank you, Mark. Again, guys, so right now my situation, they extended the investigation until February. So I have to go back to the police station in February and surrender myself. They might re-extend it again. I don't know. They might charge me. I don't know. Like I could get charged with terrorism, but this sack of shit over here, he chops people's heads off, and now they want to make him look like a statesman. I mean, the nerve of these people, really, the goddamn nerve. The goddamn nerve. Just the world upside down. The world upside down. You know, if I was defending Al-Qaeda in Syria, they would have never touched me in London. Never. Right? I would be writing pieces for a rag like the Telegraph. All of a sudden, Terrorism Act doesn't apply. So you know, basically, I'm still they muzzling me, stopping me from working freely. And I need your support, guys. So if you can join on Patreon or donate on PayPal, it really goes a long way, and I appreciate it very much. Remember, they demonetized my YouTube channel, and then they arrested me, and they put me under investigation. So, you know, it's limiting things, but I'd really appreciate your help. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to stream more. It's really frustrating, but I want to, you know, I mean, I've wanted to do it more, but yeah, they've made it difficult on purpose. That's the democracy and freedom, right? Democracy and freedom. Shut your mouth. Yeah. Really saw the freedom of the press there. UK freedom of the press. Thank you. We've got a notification from PayPal here, but I'm trying to open it. It's from Adelmo. Thank you very much, Adelmo. And I'm just checking if there's a note on it, if there's a question or a comment that you guys have. Just thank you for your courage and your work, Richard. God bless you. Thank you. Likewise, and very grateful to you guys. So. Jessica says, Richard, have you considered writing a book on imperialism? Yes. Yes. I mean, I'm writing one right now, but it's not on imperialism. It's something else, but I can guarantee you guys are going to like it. And I'll have more info on that soon. But yeah, I will. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate your support. It's very kind. And Maztek says, I still remember white helmets in Syria. All of them were Al-Qaeda. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is they still got them running around Damascus now and acting like they're civil defense, right? White helmets are an MI6 operation, which, by the way, that piece of crap, David Lammy, runs. Remember, the foreign secretary, the head of MI6 reports to the foreign secretary, which is very funny because it goes to show you how intertwined the spy service, the intelligence service is with British diplomacy. I mean, it's like that in every country, but it's funny that it's officially like that it's officially structured under the FCDO, the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office. It's really funny. So you're not even trying to hide it, which is kind of out of character for British intelligence, right? They usually don't want you to focus on them at all. They're perfectly fine with other people taking credit for their work because they don't want anyone to talk about them. Yeah, it's like with the NSA stuff, right? GCHQ actually is mentioned just as much in those papers, but people say NSA revelations. Oh, it's GCHQ, my friend. But anyway, this whole thing in Syria is Turkish intelligence, Mossad in Israel, MI6, CIA, and of course you've got Saudi and Qatar who are involved too, but it's mainly those four, now especially. Thank you very much, Todd. I appreciate your donation, and we've also got another one here. This is from, give me a second, it's loading. It's from Deborah. Says, good luck writing your book. You are in my prayers. Thank you. I appreciate it very much, and please pray for Syria. We need it, I think. Darthek says, you need to get your clothes from Zelensky's tailor. Go undercover. Have you guys seen that comparison between Jolani and Zelensky? It's funny because even the New York Times kind of came out and said, yeah, there's some similarity between the two. Hold on, I'll get the picture for you. Give me a second. I mean, it's so obvious that it's been choreographed. It's really obvious. Look at that. So that's from the New York Times. It said, Zelensky was criticized before the war in Ukraine, and then he became a statesman. The question is, can Jolani make the same transformation? Once again, if you wrote that about the wrong group in England, you would be arrested. But you can do it. I know that this is New York Times, right? But if you're a British journalist and you write something like that about the wrong group, about one that doesn't serve Israeli interests, you'll be locked up. You're a terrorist. But yeah, they've got similar wardrobes. They've been running around with their stupid khaki shirts, and also, they've clearly taught. Well, my guess, this is just a guess, but I think it's not far-fetched at all to suggest that Jolani was sat down by some people, maybe it's MI6 or CIA, and they've given him courses and personal training on body language, and they've literally tried to turn him into to sell him as a statesman, and they're doing that in the press here. But the guy, his hairline, it looks different now. The clothes are completely different. The body language is completely different. The tone, he's obviously been coached and groomed by somebody, I don't know whether it's British or American intelligence, but it's probably one of them. And I mean, is that really surprising? Of course not, right? We knew that they're behind him anyway. No one is surprised by this. The question is, when will the $10 million bounty be removed? I know where he is. I saw him in the Umayyad Mosque just now when I played you the video. So, maybe I can claim the reward. Oh, man, they're really funny, aren't they? They're really funny. Thank you very much, NJ, for signing up on Patreon. And thank you, Elaine Moore, as well, for increasing your contribution. I owe you guys a crab dance. I'll play it just momentarily. And we have another donation on PayPal. This one is from Mahmoud. It says, thank you for the great work and sacrifice. Thank you. And we have another one as well. This contribution has come in from Anne. It says, happy to support your work. Thank you, Anne. And I'll play a crab dance for you guys just now and continue. Give me a second. Let's roll.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome.
Thank you. والله انت كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
China. And you ain't black.
There's always the macro.
And then there's the micro.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
You talking to me?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'll have 2 number 9s. A number 9 large.
we got him.
Because I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Oh!
Disgusting!
She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Why you text Sender? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it! I yield my time! Fuck you!
Well, that's been the first crab dance in quite a while. We've got some more here. Thank you. Rizvi says, great journalism, keep it up. And Nadine says, Papi, our resistance will prevail. Love you, Habibi. Thank you. And we have one here from Sue, who says, you're incredible. Thank you for educating us. Love and protection from Sydney. Thank you. We have one as well here from someone who was asking, hold on, let me see if I can find it. I think it was from Hafiz. It says, what is the reason for the army retreating and not fighting? Was it Assad? Did Russia backstab? I don't think so, but why did no one fight? So I don't know. I really don't know. But it's clear that they were ordered not to fight. It's clear that they were ordered not to fight. And whether that came from Al-Assad or it came from the top brass, I don't know. I think the likelihood is, again, it's just a guess. Okay, I'm just speculating, but what would make sense is that some people, maybe in the top brass, sold the country out, ordered the troops not to fight, and by the time Al-Assad realized what was going on, he said, okay, I'm out of here. And then Iran and Russia couldn't really do anything anymore, because if the army's not under, the president's control anymore, I mean, and top brass have sold out. I don't know. It's just my guess, because you have to ask yourself, if he was going to flee, why didn't he flee 5 years ago or in 2015 when they were also at the gates of Damascus? I mean, they were basically in Damascus already. In Jobar, for example, they were in Damascus at that point. They hadn't taken control and they got beaten back in the end. But why not leave before? Obviously there were no Caesar Act sanctions back then, but ISIS was at its strongest. So yes, now the sanctions were worse, but ISIS was much stronger back then. And I don't know. I think we'll find out in good time and in due course. But this is just just my hunch. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Because everything right now is the mess and the doing of these people who wanted revolution so bad. It's the mess of Israel, of NATO, of Turkey, of Britain, America, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. They're the ones who started this. It didn't begin 3 days ago. It began in 2011, right? It began in 2006 with the U.S. Embassy. You saw the cables. So the question is, why aren't these people who finally got the power that they've been whining about and they murdered people in order to get and obtain, why are they doing nothing? This is their mess. And under their watch, they have allowed Israel to take more land without putting up a fight. They're so ready to kill their own countrymen, right? I'm talking about the fighters that are actually Syrian, not the ones that have come from China and from Chechnya, and which is half of them, from around the world, the foreign fighters. But those who are Syrian, they're so ready to kill their own people. But then as soon as a foreign country invades, they do nothing. It's amazing to me. It's amazing. And now you see the results, the fruits of that revolution. It's shocking, really shocking. It's beyond shocking, actually. It's they've made sure that Syria is now a neutered, failed state that has no fangs, is completely toothless, and this is what Israel has wanted for decades. Anyone who knows what they're talking about, anyone who understands what Syria is, what it is, and the role that it plays, could see this coming. Again, you can't act like Bashar al-Assad is the dictator or the tyrant of some country in a vacuum. We're talking about Syria. So yeah, you can remove al-Assad and pretend in your mind that you are going to be more free, because you're not. But you're going to be crushed by other actors who are already, they've done more than enough to crush the country. But now you see the results. They're doubling down on their behavior. US is not lifting sanctions, is not leaving, is still stealing oil. Israel's taking more land. And on top of it, we are worse off in terms of democracy, in terms of freedom of speech, freedom of religion. It's worse than it was. So whatever they said about Assad, they have made it worse. Okay? And this is stupidity of the highest order. This is stupidity of the highest order. What do you want me to say? Like, this is a dark day, man. It's a dark day. And these people are so dumb. Assad, man, fuck Assad. Why you keep talking about this guy? The guy's in Moscow. Wake up. Wake up. Look at what's happening to the country now. It's like talking to a wall. It's like talking to a wall. And every country has people like that. Every country in the world has a portion of society that are just dumb. They're just dumb. They want power at all costs. They're extremists like unbelievable, like you wouldn't believe. And on top of that, they not only damage their own futures, but everybody else's futures. Every country has a portion of society that is like that, unfortunately. Right? It transcends borders. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's like giving a bunch of monkeys machine guns, right? And the worst part is that they would have only been able to do so much damage by themselves. But America came in with $1 billion to the CIA. Turkey, Israel, Britain, France, Germany, the EU, NATO, everyone, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they destroyed the country, man. And when you have to try so hard to get rid of someone, I'm gonna err on the side of caution. I'm gonna use my little critical thinking skills here and go ahead and say that maybe everything these people have been saying about Assad, half of it at least is bullshit, and that actually what you're promising is coming after is not going to work out. You know why? And because anyone who knows what Syria is could see this coming. And guess what? Everything that we said is going to happen. Israel stealing more land. NATO won't leave. Sanctions won't leave. You will not have democracy under these people. They are just as tyrannical, if not worse. And they're fanatics. They're religious fanatics. I mean, it's like talking to a wall. Thank you, Stephen. Says, I greatly appreciate your analysis and the energy you give. The energy here is is coming from the heart. It really is. It's a dark day. It's a dark day. Like I said before, they taken away a faulty car, a car that half works, and replaced it with a child's bicycle, with a tricycle, and they're trying to tell you it's an upgrade. Really? Thank you for this new pair of wheels, this new set of wheels. Yeah, they're technically wheels, I suppose. You know, it's a what I mean, they pull the wool over people's eyes. It's shocking, and then you know you got people in the West, you know, including some Muslims, and so I'm not just talking about like white liberal imperialists who work at the Guardian. You know, you've got even some Muslims who are not Syrian, who don't know Syria, never been there, they don't understand Syrian society and politics, and they're clapping like, oh yeah, Syria is free. What do you know about Syria? How are you qualified to talk about Syria? In what way are you an expert? Do you have any knowledge about Syria? You know, obviously you don't have to be in every country to understand geopolitics, but still, you know, it's like they're off the mark by so much. It's like they're talking about, you know, an imaginary place. We clearly are not referring to the same area. We're not referring to the same people, you know. And the fact that you end up on the same side as Netanyahu while you're saying you're pro-Palestine, you need a reality check of a reality check. I mean, Jesus, really. To put it mildly, to put it bluntly. Again, thank you guys very much for supporting my work while I'm under investigation. You know, they still haven't given me back my phones. They've cost me tons of money to replace them, and other things. And you know, they're basically trying to intimidate me into silence. That's what they're doing with the investigation. But it means that I can't work, or that my work is limited. So I really rely on you guys' support, and thank you so much for helping me while I'm in this situation. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure you share the video. Please share this video, especially, right? Get the word out, because there's so much propaganda about Syria. There's so many people who have no clue what they're talking about, who've you know, they've guzzled that Kool-Aid about democracy and freedom, and they're cheering on these head-chopping lunatics backed by NATO. They don't know their asses from their elbows. So please share the video. Get the word out, you know. There needs to be some pushback on this. We can't allow the empire to constantly, you know, hoodwink people about Gaza, about Ukraine, about Syria, about every goddamn conflict in the world. You know, enough is enough, right? Enough is enough. A lot of the reason, a lot of the reasons for this this coup, this regime change operation, are because of propaganda, because of the media. Remember, they poured more money into this, into overthrowing Bashar al-Assad than they did in any other operation, the CIA. And a lot of British intelligence's efforts went into media. They went into ARC and Incostrat and the White Helmets, and they set up all these cutouts, and they did it to brainwash people in Arabic, in English. The level of clandestine brainwashing and propaganda that they engaged in is off the charts. Off the charts. You know, I mean, the Israelis must feel insulted that that the West hasn't spent that much energy on hoodwinking people about Palestine. You know, but with that, it's different. They just shut you up and call you a terrorist. So, you know, they had to approach the Syrian one a bit differently. But it's a dark day for Syria. It's a dark day for the whole region, man. It really is. It really is. And you know, you can bring if they would actually make the country better, I'm the first one who would say, great, good job. But they're not. They're not. These people are head choppers. They're religious fanatics. They're backed by the enemies of Syria, the people who've starved and bombed Syria. What possible good could they do? What possible good intentions could they have for Syria? None. None. And I'm not going to change my mind on them, because we've seen the fruits of their revolution before, and now destruction, man. Nothing but destruction. So again, thank you guys very much. And I'll put the links to PayPal and Patreon and everything below. Take care. Ma'a salama. Bye-bye.
A is for
all men and women created by go. You know the thing.
B is for
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
C is for
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
D is for
Don't worry, I'm so serious. Children, I love to hear them.
E is for
Excuse to walk by the dealer and say, no, I'm not going to be a mule. I got something to do. I got to go do boom, boom, boom.
F is for
friend, time friend, and she's a friend. She's been my friend in and out of public life.
G is for
Go to Joe 30330.
H is for
Hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down.
I is for
I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate.
J is for
Just look at the record.
I have President Biden, Vice President Biden.
Well, I tell you what, if you look at my record and you still doubt about my commitment, then you should vote for somebody else.
K is for
Kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
L is for
The lion, dog, face, pony soldier.
M is for
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear work.
N is for
NATO.
O is for
The only African American woman that's ever been elected to the United States Senate.
P is for
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
R is for
Rest her soul, and although your mom's still alive.
S is for
Send a text to the word united.
T is for
Truth over facts.
U is for
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future.
V is for
I'll vote for somebody else.
All right, thanks so much.
W is for
Wait, you're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay.
X is for
Xi Jinping.
Y is for
And you ain't black.
Z is for
She's sleeping?
Women in our country has been classified as essential. So this is an issue.
By the way, this is my little sister Valerie, and I'm Jill's husband. Oh no, you switched on me. This is my wife. This is my sister.